Hi, I'm Thomas Sena, co-host of the SNL Hall of Fame podcast.
And I'm Jeremy Dove, co-host of the Bigger Than the Game podcast.
Jeremy and I have joined forces to create a new podcast called Pop Culture 5 to ask the question, what are the 5 essential things about any given pop culture topic?
It could be 5 essential movies by an actor of our choice.
Or 5 essential songs by a musician of our choice.
We're not making a list of our personal favorites, it's the essentials.
And we better do a good job of justifying our essentials because one of us will have veto power each episode.
And I'm ready to tell Thomas why he's wrong.
All right, Jeremy, all right. Well, actually, why don't we give everyone an out-of-context peek at what we've been up to? So Pharrell was right next to me, and we looked at each other, and we were kind of like bobbing our heads. He wasn't wearing his hat. Nobody really knew he was kind of incognito. But I had to do a double take. I'm like, that's Pharrell. And then he looked at me.
You just slipped that in there, this big name drop here. I was next to my man Pharrell. Like, whoa. I never heard this, everyone.
So join us to celebrate and discuss the essentials of pop culture.
Listen and subscribe to Pop Culture 5 wherever you get your podcast.
Hey, it's time to gather around the water cooler to talk the SNL Hall of Fame. Hey, it's JD here, and I want to welcome you back to the SNL Hall of Fame water cooler. I am inside the building, walking down to the lunchroom right now where we keep the water cooler to meet Shari and Joe. They are there to talk about this week's episode of the SNL Hall of Fame, as well as breaking down the path that this person will have to the Hall of Fame and ranking them as well. And then we will go through the Hall of Fame and Hall of Shame of this week's Saturday Night Live episode. It is the premiere of the 50th season. I am now in the room. I can see Joe and Shari. Shari, how you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Got my water bottle all filled up from the water cooler, and I'm ready to chat.
I am parched. Joe, how about you?
I'm doing good. I am really, really excited about this particular individual that we will be discussing today.
Yeah, it's Bob Odenkirk. Nicole Brady was featured on this episode. She was also in season 4 with Anna Gasteyer, nominating Anna Gasteyer. This time it's Bob Odenkirk in the writing category. So, Shari, do you want to recap Monday's Hall of Fame episode?
Absolutely. Well, you gave a nice little lead in, JD. You are the best at that, getting me prepped, so thank you. Yes, it was Thomas and Nicole, and I had forgotten who she nominated. One of my favorites, Anna Gasteyer, so hopefully Anna gets in, I hope.
Yeah.
And Nicole did a great job this time, just like she did that time. And Thomas, of course, the consummate conversationalist.
Absolutely.
They chatted at 100%. They chatted quite thoroughly about Mr. Odenkirk's career. They started off with some background in the fact that they shot Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and I didn't watch either, so sorry. But apparently they were shot in New Mexico. I did not know that.
Yeah.
And I guess Bob was very close with the improv community and would just show up at things. I thought that was super cool.
Wow.
Thomas and Nicole both said they had never gotten a chance to catch him, but they did compliment him for having such a great relationship with the New Mexican community. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then they broke it down from the beginning to the end. Of course, they started with Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad and how we know Bob Odenkirk now. And then they went back in the backward time machine to when he was a young 25-year-old, just starting out. And his time at SNL, of course, they talked quite in detail about his baby, as Thomas called it, the Matt Foley, the motivational speaker. They really did a nice breakdown of that. And several other sketches, some Tom Hanks sketches that he did that I wasn't aware of. And the fact that he worked on Superfans, I knew, but I didn't know about Hans and Franz. So it was quite an enlightening discussion, very detailed and very well researched on both Thomas and Nicole's part.
Well, that's what we expect from those people at this point, and they always deliver. So
Deliver.
it's really great. Joe, what do you feel was the thrust of the argument that Nicole made in terms of nominating and advocating for Bob Odenkirk?
What I pulled away from that episode, I don't. She didn't really say it specifically, but I just kind of connected the dots. Something I noticed was he's really Bob Odenkirk is really good at bringing out a performer's voice. Now, there's one sketch in particular I'm sure we'll get to that really enhances a certain performer's talent. But
Hmm.
another one that I learned from the episode was how much he helped Dana Carvey,
Oh, yeah,
especially with Grumpy Old Man, Hans and Franz. Now, with Grumpy Old Man, now if you listen to his podcast or watch a stand up, you see that he kind of riffs. And what I've noticed is he finds an attitude, puts a voice to it, and then riffs jokes. And what I imagine what Bob Odenkirk helped do was help mold it into a solid, cohesive personality. So I imagine Dana had most of Grumpy Old Man there, and I imagine Odenkirk
Molded it.
pitching some more jokes and giving it maybe a theme for the week or for that current um editorial, what have you.
right.
Um, Same for Hans and Franz, kind of bringing out a performer's voice and finding out what's funny about them. You know, it's this, not that. Oh, and then the McLaughlin group. That was another one where it seems like it's something Dana Carvey, probably came up with the idea with, but but like I mentioned in the episode, you got Smigel, Conan, who are like Harvard grads, who are really good at being, with political stuff, and then Odenkirk, who I don't think he went severely. I don't think he went to an Ivy League school, but
He did not. No.
still finding that voice, like what makes McLaughlin Group funny, and contributing to that as he does.
Yeah. Yeah. You put it well, both of you. I think Odenkirk is certainly a deserving member of the Hall of Fame. If you look at Saturday Night Live, this is he's there for the second golden age,
Hmm.
and that's not an accident, I don't think. What do you think,
Hmm.
Shari?
Oh, absolutely not. And, they just did episode 13 of Everything You Need to Know About Saturday Night Live on
Yes.
the Saturday Night Network, which I feel like we sometimes are a commercial for, but, the best is the best. And they're
Rightfully so.
awesome. And they're awesome. And that is the season where Mr. Odenkirk showed up.
That's right.
And boy, what a start of a season that was.
Yeah.
We were talking about it before we started recording. What an amazing season that was. And the writing. It's all about that writing. The cast was great, don't get me wrong, but writing. Uh, Smigel, Odenkirk, O'Brien. I mean, gosh, like a murderer's row of writing talent. Just incredible.
And then reacting to TV and movies. I just want to pass through Carcinio because
Oh,
that is yes, and then enhancing a performer's talent. So you got Dana Carvey, who does a great art or great Carson. I almost said the other guy, and then making fun of the Carson Arsenio conflict at the
So
time, which
good.
for you youngsters, Johnny Carson was at the time this. Uh, he was the host for the Tonight Show for decades, and then he
Decades, yeah.
finally had competition in the '90s, and then the sketch was the parody of that. Um, and it's an excellent, perfect note for note parody of what was going on.
Yes.
But
100.
and then the last thing I want to get, because again, I just love Bob Odenkirk, so I'm sorry if I'm you know, but then I was just going to go to the Bears, and this was because this came out of all of the Chicago sports teams or Chicago's love for sports teams in the '90s. You know, it was like the Bulls, the Bears, like they were all dominating, and the Bears is like I still know people like this with the that love Dicka. They have the Bears shirts. They watch every Sunday. And then the thing that I want to point out is in the sketch, the Bears show or whatever is on WBBM, and which is a CBS affiliate, but that's the affiliate that shows the Bears football. So like that's how accurate the sketch is, that the Bears show would be on the same network as the Bears football.
Oh, I love that.
Like, and that's
little
something
attention for detail
that comes out of Odenkirk, because both me and him are from the Chicago suburbs. He's from
Naperville.
it's Schaumburg. Naperville. I used to hang out in Naperville, and I'm shout out to Burbank, but like I used to hang out in Naperville, and so like yeah, I could. It's almost like he's like a college senior that is like, I got you, kid. Like I know what you're talking about, and I'll put it on TV. So he spoke my language. Showery, you can talk now. Sorry.
No, Joe, that's awesome. And I'm not very far from Chicago. It's funny. I'm 4 hours from Chicago and I'm 4 hours from Toronto, roughly. So I'm right
there. You go.
Where you used to be, Joe, and where JD currently is.
So what you're saying is, if we ever do a meet and greet, we have to do it in Michigan.
Yeah.
I'm already planning a trip to Toronto, JD. It's in the old noggin. It's in the old noggin. But anyway, that didn't mean to get off track there. I was taking some notes because I know JD always asks us about who the candidate or the nominee of the week compares to as far as people who are already in the hall.
Right.
And this week, usually I'm a little stumped. But this week it was easy.
Absolutely.
Because there's two in there, and they both have similar trajectories to Bob. I'd say he's closest to Conan. Because does anybody think of Conan's work on SNL when they think of Conan first thing?
No, not really.
They think of late night.
I often wonder about the Conan getting in. I often wonder, what were the circumstances about that.
I wonder as well. I'm surprised that he got in as quickly as he did. I mean, 3 ballots is fairly quick.
Yeah.
Considering it took Molly and Maya 5 ballots. But
and Franken and Davis as well, 5 ballots.
5 ballots, yep. But I see Odenkirk in a similar vein to Conan because everybody knows him because of what he's doing now. And he's so huge now. So I think that's going to possibly
hinder him,
slip him in a couple. I don't know. I think
get
it's
him
going to help him.
Yeah.
I think it's going to get him in possibly in less ballots than Conan because people are obsessed with Everybody Calls Saul and Breaking Bad. At least here. I don't know about where you're at, Jamie, but here.
For sure. Oh, absolutely.
I've never watched either. They're not my bag, but I've heard they're terrific. And I'm a librarian, and the librarians are obsessed with it. They love Breaking Bad. They love Better Call Saul. And they're always picking on me because I haven't seen either. Same with Schitt's Creek, JD, which I know is a Canadian product. I'm always hearing about that one too. But it's like, everyone's like, why don't you watch it? Why don't you watch it? And I don't have an interest. But I think that's going to put him in, again, it's that recency bias. He's in everybody's brain, just like Conan. You can't get away from Conan. He's everywhere.
He is ubiquitous. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. That's a great comp. And it took him 3 ballots to get in, like you said. So, anything more than that for Odenkirk you'd have to say would be a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah. I think he's and I think his sketches. He's got more sketches that were reoccurring, and Superfans was huge.
Yeah.
Hans and Franz, he had a hand in later on, but he still had a hand in. Grumpy Old Man was very, very popular. And of course, we got to talk about.
Here we go.
Van Down by the River. I mean, come on. Come on. And that's his baby. He created that at Second City.
Yeah.
So I think that gives him, I think he's going to get in and possibly even on a first ballot, maybe second.
Wow.
We'll see.
Shari going out on a limb.
That's a
First
hot,
ballot.
that's a hot
I
take
love
there.
it.
That's a hot take.
Well, where do you guys rank them at this point? This will be interesting this week, I think, whether or not anybody has shifted from last week. So we are looking at Beck Bennett versus Shari Otari. Shari Otari, Jesus, JD, versus Garrett Morris versus Adam Driver versus U2 versus Charles Barkley versus Bob Odenkirk. Where do they stack up this week, gang? Joe?
Okay. So these discussions, I've been thinking about them during the week, and my rankings have been changing. So I'll go from bottom to top.
Okay.
There's 7 people. Number 7, U2. They're a great band, but I don't think they contributed a lot to Saturday Night Live's legacy. So, I mean, they're great when they're on, but,
Sure.
Charles Barkley, he's great, but SNL isn't his forte. Okay. So he's better than U2. Above him is Adam Driver. He's on his way to being like a Tom Hanks, but he's not there yet. So above him is Shari Otari, who's great, but like Shari, my Midwest accent, pointed out, she just came and went. She came, dominated, and left, and then didn't do anything since. Beck Bennett is above that. Is above her. He's a great Universal performer. Above him is Bob Odenkirk because how much he contributed to other performers. So it's almost like he was there after he left. Like his legacy was there with Motivational Speaker and the Bears, and like those characters were still there. Yeah, and then Bob Odenkirk was like 2 shows later. Like he had the Ben Stiller show and then Mr. Show, and they were still doing the Bears. So, and then above him is Garrett Morris, and that's because he's an original cast member, and it's the least he could get is being in the SNL Hall of Fame. If you listen to that episode, you'll see how he was shortchanged, and based on his talent, the least that he deserves is being in the SNL Hall of Fame. So that's my top 7.
How about you, Shari?
Okay, so I take a different angle from Joe. I leave my personal box and I go to the box of the voters. How are they going to vote? I get into their brains a little bit. I try. And I think I'm going to start at the bottom too. And Joe and I line up there. U2, it's that curse of the musical act that we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
I don't even think they're going to, if they crack 10% and are able to stay till next season, I'll be surprised. Charles Barkley is going to be just above them, and I think he'll get onto the next ballot, but not by much. Garrett, I agree with Joe. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but memories are short, and I just don't think people remember him. I do, but I don't know how many, and I know you two do, but I don't know how many others.
Right.
Same with Shari Otari.
The casual voters.
Yeah, casual voters. Same with Shari Otari. I think she's just going to be right with Garrett. Because again, she came and went, and I don't know how many remember her. I think Adam is going to be right here at number 3. He's very recent. He's on fire. He does not seem to be leaving the zeitgeist. He's always got something going on. And he may show up this season. Who knows? Now, here's where I shook things up a little bit. This episode shook me up a little bit. I banked back down to number 2. I think he's going to be just under Bob because Bob did some major sketches and he's huge right now. Whereas what is Beck doing? I'm not exactly sure. Taking a little breather maybe, and that's fine. He
just signed for a new TV show. Him and Kyle and someone else. There's A.D. Bryant. There's 3 of them joining a TV show that's going into its 2nd season, and I forget the name of the TV show. If you are listening and you remember, send us an email, SNLHOF watercooler or HOFWC@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, let us know the name of that show because I want to try and track it down if it's on any of my streaming services.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm giving Bob the top slot here because he's got those great sketches. I mean, come on. Wasn't Matt Foley the number one in the countdown? Again, the Saturday Night Network did a
Yeah.
countdown of the characters. I feel like Matt Foley was right there, or maybe it was catchphrases, or maybe both, because Van Down by the
They've
River
done
was
a
very
bunch.
high up. And that sketch is always in the mix.
Yeah.
You can't talk about SNL without talking about that sketch. And that's from the mind of Bob Odenkirk.
Okay, we are going to move to a new segment now that we are in the thick of SNL season 50. There are new episodes to discuss. And the angle that we're going to take in the discussion of episodes is we are going to keep it Hall of Fame focused. And we are going to take a look each week. We're going to get one hit from Joe and one hit from Shari on what they think their Hall of Fame moment was for the episode and their Hall of Shame moment for the episode. Will these moments that they identify as Hall of Fame moments, will they come back in the arguments to nominate these people in the future? We'll have to wait and see. Joe, we'll start with you.
So,
do you want to start Hall of Shame or Hall of Fame, buddy?
I'll start Hall of Fame.
All right.
Because I think it's on everyone's minds, especially if they watched it recently, is the cold open. Yeah. And I think everyone was looking for Saturday Night Live's reaction to what was going on in the summer, and it scratched that itch perfectly. It addressed Kamala, it addressed Trump, it addressed the cats and dogs, the assassination attempts, and then they had cameos. It just hit every note. I don't know what phrase. Yeah, I started the phrase and I didn't know how to end it. But yeah, the cold open. It just got everyone. It's almost like it got everyone caught up. Like this is and they addressed everything from the summer. And then you got all the pitch perfect impressions. You got Maya Rudolph and then also I want to mention I was so happy to see Jim Gaffigan for two reasons. One, he was perfect, and two, like he's someone that I should have put on my list that I wanted him to host because it's like he's been in the zeitgeist forever. He was in the Jerry Seinfeld Pop-Tarts movie. He did Pale Force with Conan. I recommend you look it up on YouTube. And he's a great comedian that's been around forever. And then to see him when he came out, I was like happy to see him. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's good at the impression. He's great at that too. And then, and all that stuff. So yeah, it was just, one after another. So, Shari?
Oh, my Hall of Fame moment. There were so many tonight. Oh my God. Yeah. So I know that the Lonely Island is already in. But freaking Andy motherfucking Samberg. I'm sorry, I never swear. Andy Samberg, I did not love him when he was on the show. I did not love him. I did not appreciate him.
Wow.
And now that I listen to the Lonely Island podcast with Seth Meyers, and I've watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Do you get the JD? Are you able to watch? Have you watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine at all?
Absolutely.
Didn't watch it till just recently. Loved it. And now here he is, not once, but twice. He is the man. He's so funny. Okay, I'm a Jewish girl, so I really appreciated his Hanukkah joke about the White House, getting the White House ready for Christmas. It's so good to see Andy. I'm just happy he showed up. I don't think it's the last we're going to see of him. He was hilarious as Doug Emhoff. I know he'll be back. He and Maya have amazing chemistry. This is a Hall of Famer. I think he should be in there by himself, as well as with the Lonely Island. Because I didn't appreciate him. And now I'm like, homie is so funny. And I never thought of him as an impressionist. And he often says he's not. But he nails Doug Emhoff. Nails it. So, so good. So he would be my Hall of Fame.
That's something we need to consider because if you look, we did that honor for John Mulaney. He struck out as a host, but we have him on the ballot now as a writer. And, Sandberg is in with The Lonely Island as writers.
Yeah.
They took to the third ballot to get in, which is mind-numbing for me. Absolutely mind-blowing. They should have been first ballot. They changed the show, for heaven's sake. But to have Andy go in on his own, that's fascinating. I like that. And so stay tuned for the draft, folks. We'll be doing the season 7 draft in January, and maybe you'll hear from Mr. Sandberg again. All right, I hate to do this, but let's go to the Hall of Shame. We'll stick with Shari. Shari, was there anything in this episode that
after update
that you would look at with your nose pinched?
They either hit with the weirdness or they miss with the weirdness. And that Housewives of, was it Santa Fe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was expecting more here. Everybody tries so hard, but nobody can save it. It's sort of a sinking ship. They're throwing everything at the wall and nothing is sticking. It was a bit of a disappointment, but this was, I don't want to spoil for anybody who hasn't seen the episode yet, but this was a stellar evening. So, you're not going to hit with every sketch. So that was a little bit of a miss for me.
All right, we're going to move to Joe now and his Hall of Shame pick. Joe?
So it's the same. It's Housewives. Again, I don't want to. Well, for one, let's just point out it's a 10-to-1er, and what that means is it's the last sketch of the night. It's probably going to be the shortest. But why it's a miss for me is the Jean Smart that I know from, I think, Frasier and whatnot. She's very good at being like condescending, and so when I saw the graphic for Real Housewives, I was like, oh, okay, perfect. This is a great premise for her to be condescending. And then instead, without spoiling it, it was about something else. So it was like, she's right there. You could use her as a, condescending housewife. But the sketch wasn't about that. It was about something else. And I was like, oh, but they did use her condescending talent in another sketch without spoiling it. So, but that's why it was a miss. It was like you had, the talent right there, but you had the premise be about something else. So
very interesting. I think that's a nice point because when you saw the title card and you saw you got a sense of the premise, and then you saw the ladies sitting around the table. It was an impeccable, it was the best of the best of the female cohort, right? Like pretty much.
Right.
Yes. So you're expecting a big thing. And then, again, and we can use spoilers, guys. If you haven't watched the episode yet, don't listen. That's probably the best bet. It was, it was more about Dismukes and this physical comedy. And, and the physical comedy just didn't hit. It just didn't hit the way I thought it might, because Andrew Dismukes is so talented.
So good.
Okay, so that gives us our Hall of Fame and Hall of Shame picks for this week. We'll do that again next week when we talk about Bill Kenny nominating Danny DeVito. Danny DeVito in the host category has hosted 4 times, I believe, once with his wife, Rhea Perlman. Bill Kenny, of course, has been all over this show since season 1. He's been part of the roundtables. He's been part of nominee discussions, and we expect nothing but awesomeness from our friend Bill.
I'm a giant Danny DeVito fan. Like, I obsess over Taxi. And he is so great in Taxi.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so great in everything. And he's got this is another show. We were talking about shows that Shari doesn't seem to get a hold of. Everybody loves this Sunny Philadelphia.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, yeah.
Thank you.
It's been on 20 years and I haven't seen an episode.
Jesus, that makes me feel better, JD.
Yeah.
Because I tried. It's just not for me.
Okay.
But again, I do love Danny. He's just so funny.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a fun episode because
And he was enormous in the 80s.
Oh, huge.
Like a
Huge
big
in the
actor
80s.
in the 80s. Yeah.
Throw Mama from the Train, Ruthless People. So movies outside of his TV work. Yeah, he was all over the 80s.
He is a multi-generational talent where Taxi, movies,
Yes.
like he was like, so he is associated with Taxi, Twins, Matilda, Sunny in Philadelphia. So trust me, whoever you are out there, Danny DeVito is associated with something that you like, and we'll talk about his connections with Saturday Night Live and such.
Absolutely. And we're going to do that next week right here on the SNL Hall of Fame water cooler. On behalf of Joe and Shari, I want to wish you well and bid you adieu. We will see you next week. Until then, stay thirsty. Thanks for listening to the SNL Hall of Fame water cooler. To connect with Joe and Shari, join our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/SNLHOF. To email the cast, write to snlhofwc@gmail.com. Please subscribe, share, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts.
To podcasts and such.